All right, genetic modification. So why should we even care about CRISPR technology and genetic modification? First of all, the CRISPR technology has been evolving over the past years, and it has been gaining more and more popularity over the past years because it promises faster, cheaper, and easier genetic modification. And CRISPR technology can add, delete, or replace genetic code by simply using a sample of the RNA sequence for the target DNA sequence, and it uses the Cas9 enzyme to cut that specific area. It is much simpler than the old methods of genetic modification simply because RNA is much easier to synthesize than specific enzymes for that certain DNA sequence, and it can quote-unquote turn on and off genes as well. So first of all, I think that gene editing should be used because the potential positives that come from this technology are, I think, outweigh the potential negatives that come with it. So first, looking at the scientific breakthroughs that can result from gene editing is where the most positive impact occurs. Firstly, many genetic diseases and disorders have the potential to be cured from this technology. These two diseases include many diseases that are very prevalent in our society today, including cancer, AIDS, COVID, and many more. The curing and treatment of these diseases would also contribute to the longer lifespan of the human species, as well as if everything in our body is modified to work perfectly, then of course we're going to live longer as well. And also, another benefit of the implementation of gene editing is that plants in the future could gain more medicinal value. And with plants having more medicinal value, it could also contribute to the revolution of edible vaccines. All right. While all these positives are great, nothing is ever perfect. There are still many unanswered questions when it comes to the side effects of using gene editing technology. For example, one question scientists have is whether editing the DNA of human embryo will have negative impacts on the process of birth. Some of these negative impacts include premature birth, stillbirth, or even miscarriage. Also, with more people living longer on our planet, people are concerned that with the limited amount of resources we already have on our planet right now, would we cause even more depletion of our resources and eventually run out? And then even another question people still have is if even we get rid of the diseases that we have in our world right now, would we perhaps maybe even create a new disease that's even worse than the ones we have now? Finally, next is the ethical dilemma that is presented by gene editing. Many people agree that it wouldn't be necessarily ethical to only provide the cures to diseases for the ones who provide the money. People wonder if there's going to be an equal opportunity for everyone to get the same amount of treatment. And next is the argument from designer babies. If we theoretically create the perfect human by just picking and sorting whatever we want, is there going to be some sort of upper class society like we saw formed in the movie Watch the Summer Gattaca? Are we just going to leave behind all the normal babies, or is it going to be an equal society, which doesn't even really happen in our society today? And then finally, some people believe that genetically modifying humans is too much like playing God. We as Catholics believe that everything God's created is inherently good, and even disease is natural. So who are we to mess with the genetic code of the human body? And then if everything He made is good, why would we mess with it? And people who agree with this argument believe that it is just simply not our right to edit our DNA. And finally, even though there could be the ethical standpoint doesn't really agree with the use of genetic modification, I still do believe that the scientific breakthroughs that could occur after the implementation of this technology outweigh the ethical downfalls.
All right, thank you. Did your research go in a different direction than you originally expected?
originally I was gonna plan to have more of like an environmental aspect to it, but then I couldn't, like, I could have included like the plants in there, but I saw that more of like as a scientific thing because of the medical research, so I decided to go more into a scientific view to that.
Okay. What are the implications of your conclusion to our community?
Well, to our age in general, I think that our age is the one that's going to be impacted by this technology most. I feel because it's going to be implemented into like maybe our offspring. So I think that if we find out a way to get rid of all like the drawbacks of maybe like the ethical drawbacks, find a way to get around those, then I feel like it'd be important to have those scientific positives in our next society, like getting rid of cancer and AIDS and other diseases like that, and maybe even the COVID.
Okay, thank you. Another round of applause.